Welcome to the Retirement Compass radio show. Now, retirement doesn't look the way it used to, and that's exactly the point. I'm your host, Mike Bauer, consumer advocate, and I'm joined today by Zach Vancas, financial advisor at Stonebridge Wealth Systems, joining us to help clear the fog and, of course, help you out with the Retirement Compass. Doing that to clear the fog is Zach Vancas. Zach, welcome to the program. Thanks so much for taking time today.
Yeah, hey, good to be here, Mike.
All right, so for our listeners, before we dive in, just so you know, Stonebridge has offices, 4 conveniently located offices: Grand Island, Kearney, Omaha. And Zach, you're in Lincoln. If you want to meet in person for a complimentary visit with Zach or a member of the Stonebridge family, you can do that. StonebridgeIWM.com is the website, and the phone number to call is 866-295-5146. That's 866-295-5146. Zach, let's jump right into it. And I want to start off with a word that I'm sure you've been hearing, and maybe it's not a real word, but it's unretirement. Millions of Americans have left the workforce and then kind of boomeranged back into the workforce, and for different reasons, right? Some by choice, some out of necessity, and some because retirement simply wasn't what they expected. So I really feel like, Zach, like this isn't a story of failure in most of these instances, but it absolutely changes a financial plan. Is unretirement something that you talk about a lot with clients at Stonebridge?
Yeah, we talk about it quite a bit, sometimes unfortunately, sometimes fortunately. Like you had mentioned, there's various reasons why people come out of retirement. Sometimes, and obviously the situation we'd prefer is you retire, and often what we hear is, there really isn't that much on Netflix. Like it's not that good. If all you do is watch all day, every day. Daytime television, I've heard, is not that good either. And so, some people just decide, hey, I'm bored. I want to go do something that I enjoy. And hey, we support that 100%. Can that change the plan? Does that change the plan? Yes, typically for the better. Obviously, having more income doesn't hurt. There's considerations that obviously come into like tax planning, Social Security, like annual earnings tests. Those are things we have to look at. The unfortunate side of it, however, is oftentimes we'll see people are forced to come out of retirement due to rising inflation, due to their investments, having a significant downturn early on, or cost structures change, spouse passes away, what have you. There's a lot of different circumstances that can cause it. And, unfortunately in those situations, it can become a subject that we have to help navigate for quite a few different people.
I mean, you mentioned Netflix, and now I'm thinking of all the shows I have to catch up on that I can't because I've got a toddler at home. I've got a few different jobs, and so it's like, man, I still haven't watched what's the one Squid Game. I'm still like a season behind. I missed, it's like you got me thinking about the shows that I'm missing out on.
But once you get caught up, it now what? You kind of run out, or once you get caught up and you got to wait for the new episode to come out once a week, that's rough.
See, I'm a fan. Like I like to watch things as they're coming out. My wife is the opposite. She waits till the end of the season. She doesn't ever want to deal with a cliffhanger ending. She doesn't want that uneasy feeling. And I think, maybe my wife is wise here in terms of thinking about retirement, right? You don't want cliffhanger endings in your retirement. You don't want that feeling of uneasiness. You want to get it all done at one point in time. And that's one thing that's great about Stonebridge is you guys can help people get things done all together, kind of like watching a whole season of, in this case, Squid Game, right?
Yeah. There's this saying that life is what happens to you while you're planning. And yes, there is reality to that. Obviously, we can't forecast the future. But there's a lot that we can do and put into the plan and stress test ahead of time to see, how is this going to work? And we can stress test scenarios. Obviously, the basis of a retirement plan is going to be, what is my monthly expenses? Okay, it's X dollars a month. When I retire, how do I find X dollars a month, right? Is that Social Security? Is that pensions? Is that fixed income instruments like an income annuity? Is it taking X% of my investments out per year? And if so, what do I invest? Find the income plan. And okay, let's say I find X dollars a month safely. Then how does inflation play into that? Well, what happens if Social Security gets cut in 2033, 2035? Not cut all the way, but benefits get reduced. Could that happen? What happens if one spouse passes away? Like if all of your monthly income is tied to one spouse's pension that's for their life only and there's no spousal continuation, that's something that you need to plan for. Because Unfortunately, that's a reality that you can face. And if you're relying heavily on your investments, okay, what happens if the stock market has a 40% downturn or a 50% downturn like we saw in 2008? What if bonds drop 15% while stocks drop 18% like we saw in 2022? Will you still be okay then, or are you only okay in the up years? These are the things that will stress test for you so that it's not a guessing game of, am I going to be okay? The last thing you want to do is go into retirement and have no idea how long this is going to work.
But, and specifically talking about, this unretirement thing is that people unretire for a variety of different reasons. Can we separate that into a couple different lanes here? So people going back by choice. Maybe it's a lifestyle thing. Hey, I miss being around the friends that I had at work. I think of my old man, my pops. He retired, and then like 2 years later, he was like, I miss all the people. I'm just at home all the time. Like you said, you run out, you complete Netflix, you finish the Netflix side quest. And so there's people that go back and, he was working as a starter or marshal at a golf course just because he kind of wanted to be around people. He didn't need the money. But then there's also people that need the money. And I'm sure those conversations are very different for somebody like you, Zach.
Yeah. I mean, the people that need the money, obviously, those conversations typically don't revolve around, should I go back to work? Because they've, kind of decided, okay, I want to go back to work. I enjoy going back to work. I don't need the money. I just want to be here. And how is that going to change my taxes? Is that going to change my Social Security? I know we kind of did that income annuity thing that we haven't turned on yet. Does that change what we do with, there's things that obviously we have to address and change, but it's not, for the worse. It's just, how do we optimize this as best as possible? How do we save on taxes? How do we put as much money away as an tax efficient manner as we can? The conversations with the people where it's a necessity are obviously a lot harder of a conversation because nobody wants to hear that. And it's purely reactionary in those situations. It's you don't unfortunately kind of decide, hey, I'd like to go back to work. It's I have to. Like, I need the monthly income, right? It's got to be. And then while working, what am I going to do? Like, how do we cut the budget to save as much as possible? Where am I saving these extra dollars for the next 2 years I have to work, right? Like, what is the objective? Because unfortunately, when people do unretire, a lot of the time they just go back to work and they're just kind of working. Okay, but where, what's the goal? What's the end game? If I get X dollars in the bank, then I'm fine. What's the X, right? You have to have a goal and a plan of what you're working toward. And I think it makes it a lot easier because, a lot of people look at it like, oh, I'm 73. I got to go back to work. I'm going to work till I die. Well, the math says if you cut your expenses by a few $100 a month, you aggressively save, you max out your Roth IRA, you're done in, 2 years. That's obviously a lot different story than, I guess I'm going to work till I die. That's manageable. There's a destination. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. And that's why it's important to sit down with somebody and have a plan to see what's the goal and how do I get there.
If you are unretired or you're thinking about it, or even if you're approaching retirement and not sure, okay, do I push the goalposts back a little bit more? Give the folks at Stonebridge Wealth Systems a call. You're listening to the Retirement Compass radio show, and you can reach Zach and the team at Stonebridge at 866-295-5146. You can always learn more online or schedule a complimentary consultation at stonebridgeiwm.com. Many people listening right now are probably thinking, okay, I might fit into one of those camps. Either, I'm thinking about unretiring. Maybe I have done that. But let's talk about some of the math, which is, I'm terrible at math, so I need your help here, Zach. What's some of the math look like if somebody is looking at unretiring? Maybe portfolio withdrawals have already started. If somebody's already into the RMD world, they've already claimed Social Security, or maybe this is something that is part of the equation for you. Can you walk us through the mechanics of maybe the math side of things of what unretiring might look like?
Yeah, so I kind of touched on a couple of them, but looking at it from a more mathematical standpoint, Social Security, I would say, when people come in and say, I'm thinking of going back to work or I need to go back to work, the number one follow-up is usually, what does that do to my Social Security? Because I heard if I make too much money, they're going to steal my Social Security, or I'm going to pay more in taxes than I actually earn at my job, so it's cheaper for me to not work. Well, that's not true. The math is, with Social Security, you have like what's called the annual earnings test. And so if you make more than 2024, it was 22,320. 2026, I believe it's 24,000 and change. If you make more than that in wages, then for every $2 you earn above that limit, they withhold $1 of Social Security. So you're not at net negative. Like, you're not losing money by working. But from a Social Security withholding standpoint, and obviously the taxation of it, yeah, it changes the math. If withdrawals have already started from the retirement accounts, well, if we're not 73 yet, maybe we can pause the withdrawals or slow down a little bit. If we are 73 or 75, depending on the year we're born, and RMDs have started, so we're forced to take money out of our IRA, 401k, 403b, 457, state retirement plan, what have you. Well, the money that you're forced to take out of that account, it's taxable to you as income. Add that on top of your Social Security and add that on top of now your new wages, well, that can push you higher and higher into taxability. And when we're looking at long-term tax planning strategies like Roth conversions, for example, that's something we have to factor in. Well, because now the earned income's higher, meaning the tax bracket could be higher, meaning the future payoff of something like a conversion may be less, right? So it just changes the math on what we do. Not to say you shouldn't do it. It's just we got to plan around it.
And the team at Stonebridge Wealth Systems can help you plan if you're planning about retiring, or maybe you're retired and you want to unretire like we're talking about this segment. Unretirement can be an incredibly powerful tool. It can let your portfolio breathe, but it requires intentional, proactive design. If you want to get a second opinion on your current income playbook, call Stonebridge Wealth Systems. Zach and the team would be happy to set up a complimentary visit with you. 866-295-5146. That is 866-295-5146. Or you can always go online. There's a bunch of educational elements as well. Learn more about Zach and the team at StonebridgeIWM.com. That's StonebridgeIWM.com. We'll be right back.
Did you ever think your retirement would be shared with our government? It's true. Your traditional 401k, IRA, pension, or similar retirement accounts are like a partnership with the IRS. Simply put, they want their tax dollars, and you have them. With our latest tax calculator, you can plug in your own numbers while sitting at home. To find out what your future tax liability could be, scan the QR code or go to stonebridgetaxbill.com.
Thank you so much for listening to the Retirement Compass Radio Show. I'm Mike Bauer, consumer advocate, and today joined by Zach Vancas, financial advisor at Stonebridge Wealth Systems. And, Zach, technology, we're talking on technology right now. Technology is creeping into almost every aspect of our lives. And there was a release recently, and maybe a lot of people listening didn't hear this little bit about AI, but OpenAI, which is ChatGPT, has announced that they can now directly connect bank accounts to help. And there's emphasis on help with spending analysis and retirement planning. And the reason why I kind of put that comical emphasis there is because I'm sure that probably frightens a lot of people. I'm one of those people, I don't want my bank accounts attached to anything. I don't want, I want to go through and type in my password every single time. I don't have it auto-saved. When it comes to my bank, like if I'm buying concert tickets, fine, auto-save my password, but not for my bank. And while this could be highly efficient on the surface, what are the real dangers when people try and let AI self-diagnose their retirement plan?
Yeah, so the conversation around AI, financial advising, planning, do I trust it, do I use it, so on and so forth, is definitely an interesting one, and it's one we have regularly internally at Stonebridge. So I love me some ChatGPT. I love me some Gemini. Not specific advice, obviously. You do you. I know Eli's a big fan of Claude. There's a bunch of different models out there. I use them. We use them internally. And they're very, very helpful. But they're not perfect. And I would say the number one overarching problem that I see with people using AI for financial planning is if it's wrong, it presents it to you 100% confident, black and white, this is it. And if you don't know, it's so easy to just miss that. We'll use it. as a reference, as a starting point, for example, where it shines is obviously language. ChatGPT, Gemini, they're called an LLM, large language model. They were designed for language, writing papers. Hey, make this email sound more spontaneous, right? That's what they were built for. And obviously we've moved well beyond that, but that's kind of their underlying intent. And it's also amazing at reviewing mass amounts of information, right? I can put in huge amounts of data, every expense I've ever had for the last 5 years, and ask it, how much have I spent on fast food? And it can tell me, and it does an amazing job of that. But then asking it, what should I do? That's where it's questionable, because it doesn't have all the information. It does make mistakes. In analyzing your data, it's very, very good. But I've had many arguments with ChatGPT where we'll be talking about some sort of tax nuance, like here in 2026. And it said, well, and as you know, at the end of 2025, the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act sunset, meaning the 12% bracket's now 15%. That's factually wrong. That did not happen. July 4th, we passed one big, beautiful bill, and the tax cuts were extended indefinitely, as in until Congress votes on it again, but indefinitely.
Yeah.
Judge is wrong. Like, it's just straight wrong. And if you call it out and say, no, you're incorrect, one big beautiful bill did pass. Oh, you're right. Sorry. Good catch. My bad. What the changes of the math now is well, yeah, now you admit it. But if I didn't know that, everything I just calculated is wrong. Like, it's just flat wrong. And that's a danger. I like relying on it for, help me organize, maybe teach me a thing or two, but I'm going to cross-reference it. Like, I'm going to question you. Don't just take it at face value.
Well, and on top of that, I mean, AI is very famous for complimenting everything. Oh, great point. Yeah. Thanks so much.
I've been using Gemini to help with my fitness, weightlifting, cardio, eating, nutrition, all that stuff. And my Gemini got stuck in this loop of, I would like deadlift and I'd be sore. And it's like, yeah, you definitely need to take the next few days off. Don't run at all. Don't do. And I got to a point where I'm like, Gemini, I'm like deadlifting half of my max and taking 2 weeks off. No. Like, stop it. I need you to motivate me, not tell me, oh, it's okay, just stay home. And it does that on the financial side too. It's so agreeable. It's bad. You have to question it, because otherwise, if it's like, hey, I'm $300,000 in debt, my truck payment's $14,000 a month, and I make $8,000 a month, is that okay? It's going to respond with something like, that's not ideal, but you really like your truck. It's not going to say, you're screwed.
Right. You're not helping, ChatGPT. Yeah. Come on now.
In that example, you might be, but not saying you're screwed, but you know what I mean? Like, it's not going to question you the way you want. Its goal is to be your friend, so you use it more, and OpenAI gets paid more.
There you go. Retirement Compass radio show continues on. We're talking about the rise, if you will, or at least, just kind of the presence of artificial intelligence, AI, and money management with Zach Vancas. So technology, hey, look, it can organize the chaos. It can write some emails. It can update your LinkedIn profile or whatever. But maybe those conversations are just a little bit better with somebody who is actually sitting there with you, who is working with you and asking not the friendly questions that are going to be wrapped in a bunch of AI compliments, but like the tough questions, especially when we get into topics like estate planning that are never easy to bring up. But you've got to get those done. You have to think about those tough questions, and that's the job of the team at Stonebridge Wealth Systems, is to ask the easy questions, but also to ask those tough questions. And that comes up with a one-on-one conversation with a member of the team. To schedule a complimentary visit, call Stonebridge Wealth Systems at 866-295-5146. That's 866-295-5146. Or you can always go online, schedule a complimentary visit at stonebridgeiwm.com. I mentioned, I was like, I don't like to connect to anything, to let alone, auto-populating passwords. But if somebody's connecting their bank account, let's say that let's say that they're getting good answers to financial advice. Let's say that hypothetically that, you've gone down the road and now it's saying, hey, connect your bank account to ChatGPT. For that and for other things, I mean, how big of a concern is privacy and security for somebody that's thinking about, going online with their financial planning?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's a subject that I'm not very, very well versed in, the technical intricacies of the back end of how these AIs work. Obviously, it's a concern, no matter what, no matter how safe it is, the more things you connect to your bank account, you're opening more doors. You just are. And yeah, those doors can have really, 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 really good locks on it, but it is still a door that didn't used to be there. A. B, the way these LLMs learn and they're trained is based on us. It's us interacting with it. And so you putting in information and you asking it questions, your conversations, no, they're not necessarily logged to the point where somebody working at OpenAI can Google, hey, what's Mike's net worth? And how tall is he? And how much does he weigh?
Too much.
But, it's kind of in there somewhere, and it learns off of information like that. So that, poses a question. How does it work exactly? How is it stored? I don't know. But it's there. I can tell you at Stonebridge, we have, an enterprise level ChatGPT subscription, and there's extra securities on that. There's things we can't do. I can't upload your social security number for security reasons. I'm not allowed to do that. That's compliance sake, because of the privacy side of it and how OpenAI deals with the data. So, do I know exactly how it works? No, but that's a concern. I don't love it. So it's just something to think about.
There's a quote out there from an economist, Richard Baldwin. I had to Google it here, so I guess I'm sort of using AI. But also, NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang said, AI won't take your job, but a person who uses AI will. So, it's changing the way that things happen in the world. But to be quite honest, there's nothing to replace sitting down and having a conversation with a real person like Zach, like anybody at the team at Stonebridge Wealth Systems, because, that really, that allows you guys to build a custom retirement plan for that person that you're talking to. When you're sitting down and you're asking people questions about what their future plans are, what their current situation looks like, and all of those questions that go into maybe a first meeting, that's the kind of thing where, actually sitting down and talking with somebody, being there with real folks and actually having a conversation where maybe, and Zach, I was just telling you a little bit ago, I had a conversation the other day with somebody and I said, I think that I'm checking all the boxes. I'm doing really good. I have a toddler, we're putting money away for college. And they asked me, they said, is it a boy or girl? I said, well, it's my little lady. It's my young lady. And they said, great. In the future, you might have to pay for a wedding because that's the tradition. I'm like, oh man, I thought I was doing good. I got college taken care of, or at least part of my plan. And then all of a sudden, here's a massive future expense that, and I did the math on it. This is the 2040s. This is years and years from now. But maybe at some point in time, there's a wedding that I have to pay for. And that never would have come out with a ChatGPT or any kind of AI. That's a conversation I had with a human being who, was able to educate me on my plan, like you guys do.
Yeah, I would say of all of the faults of AI and trusting it with your financial plan, that example you just gave is probably the number one area of issue I see. It's when you meet with us, that first meeting is an hour and a half long, and it's me asking a lot of questions. And there will continue to be questions beyond that in every discussion we have if you become a client forever. ChatGPT, you give it a little bit of information. I have this much money in my 401k, and I want to take out this amount. What are the taxes on it? It will answer it, and it'll likely be correct, and that's fine. But it's not going to then follow up with, but what's your Social Security? But what's your pension? But what are you doing for part-time income? Is all of it tax deferred? Do you have any Roth money? What's going to happen when you hit age 73? Do you need all of the money you're taking out? Do you plan to leave it to your kids? Do you plan to leave it to charity? I mean, like all of these things can make 6 to 7 figures of difference in taxes over the rest of your life. And it's not going to ask you. Like, it's not. It's just going to answer your question and then tell you look pretty because, again, its goal is to make you happy and be the confirmation bias you want.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, to be quite honest, look, the modern retirement landscape is far too complex to rely on automated, simplified answers that, to be quite honest, I mean, some sort of AI is going to be giving these kind of answers to everybody else out there. Protect your personal data, build a customized strategy for the future. Again, customized. You're sitting down, you're having a conversation. Zach and Jeff and Tim and the team, the folks at Stonebridge, they're going to have a conversation and ask you questions about where you are now, where you want to be, where you want to go. 866-295-5146. Schedule a complimentary visit now. Like Zach just said, it's an hour and a half of your time, and explore the process online as well. You can set up a complimentary visit there at stonebridgeiwm.com. Stay tuned. We'll be right back on the Retirement Compass radio show.
Hi, I'm Jeremy Gove with Stonebridge Wealth Systems. Are you taking too much risk with your retirement or not enough? Most people really aren't sure. That's why we created the Stonebridge Risk Quiz. In just a few minutes, it helps you discover your personal risk tolerance. Your score could reveal why your investments sometimes feel too aggressive or maybe too conservative. It's quick, simple, and eye-opening. Scan the QR code or visit stonebridgeriskquiz.com to see if your money matches your mindset.
Welcome back to the Retirement Compass radio show. I'm Mike Bauer alongside Zach Vancas of Stonebridge Wealth Systems. And recently we talked a lot about the core pillars that set Stonebridge apart. I want to pull back the curtain a little bit on something that keeps people from making the call in the first place, and the fact that maybe people are intimidated. Taking that first step to meet with a financial advisor can feel incredibly vulnerable. Let's demystify that. What exactly happens during a first visit at Stonebridge?
So one of the things that we really like to focus on in that first appointment is we open it up with, of course, niceties, right? But I always open up that meeting with setting a clear agenda of, okay, what does the first meeting look like and what do the next, few meetings look like? Should we get there? The main focus of that first meeting, obviously there's a reason why you're coming in. Like, you have questions. There's something you don't understand. There's something you're worried about. There's something you want to accomplish, what have you. I want to answer as many questions as I can. But unfortunately, the answer to basically every question in personal finance is it depends. And so I want to find out everything that it depends on. And so my number one objective in that first meeting is going to be fact-finding. It's me understanding your whole situation. And, to answer what seem like basic questions of, well, when should I take Social Security? There's so much that goes into me answering that I have to know what's your income, what's your expenses, do you have any debt, what do you have saved, how long do you plan to work? I need to know all of those things. And so the big objective for that hour to an hour and a half, we budget an hour and a half meeting, is me understanding your entire situation. What's helpful to bring? A lot of people ask that. Should I bring anything? Should I do anything ahead of time? The big things that we're going to want to see are going to be statements for your investment accounts. I'm going to want to see tax returns, ideally, the last couple of years. I want to see, how is this income hitting the 1040? What taxes are you paying? What opportunities are there for us to try and reduce taxes? I'll need to know what you're paying to know what I can reduce. And then, a lot of the basic numbers. What is your paycheck every month? You'd be surprised. A lot of people don't really know. Or they know, well, I get, X dollars in the bank account. Okay, well, what are you paying for health insurance? What are you putting away in retirement? What are you putting into an HSA or an FSA? Right, like those are all things that I need to know and can make significant differences. Expenses, I would say, are the number one. If you're going to prep for the meeting, expenses. That's the one question that just trips people up And everyone thinks, oh, that's so easy. I spend $3,000 a month. Do you? I mean, do me a favor, pull your bank statements for the last year, add it up, divide it by 12. What's the average? Like, yeah, I believe, and most people when they say, oh, it's about $2,000, $3,000, they're right in their normal expenses, right? Got to pay my mortgage, got to pay my car bill, got to pay my insurance, got to pay electric, gas, food, etc. But then they leave out, everything else. Oh, random doctor's visit popped up. Oh, got to take the dog to the vet. Oh, life's consistent inconsistencies are real. And if we never count those, we're going to grossly underestimate what you need for income. And based on all that information, that's where we'll compile all of this. And between the first and second meeting is where we'll put together a very detailed, customized plan of, okay, here's everything you told me. These are your numbers. These aren't estimates. These aren't hypotheticals. This is your life. And we're going to show it to you in a way you probably haven't seen before. And we'll explain it to you, as best we can. And I think explaining it using your numbers and your life, a lot of people just understand it a lot better than, hypothetical for examples, because it's your situation, and you can visualize it a lot better. That second meeting will, present what we found, what we think we need to do, the areas we can improve, and then, the conversation continues from there at that point.
I mean, it really sounds casual, low pressure, especially for that introductory first time. That's good to know, though. Bring your expenses, because I'm sure that you probably feel like people have a need to have everything already wrapped up and perfected before they bring it to you. But that's a lot of, you don't always have a perfectly organized box of tax returns and statements. Nope. Zach and the team at Stonebridge Wealth Systems can help you dig through all of that and figure out what the picture really looks like in terms of expenses, in terms of income, and help you formulate that plan. Don't let the friction of the unknown hold you back from securing your financial future. Experience the Stonebridge difference for yourself. Schedule a complimentary visit at 866-295-5146. That's 866-295-5146. Or you can always go online to stonebridgeiwm.com.
Hi, I'm Tim Kohanic with Stonebridge Wealth Systems. You've worked hard and saved for retirement, but how much of it will you actually get to keep? If your savings are in a traditional IRA or 401k, Uncle Sam has a claim on every withdrawal you make. And with tax rates expected to rise in the future, the cost of waiting could be significant. A Roth conversion may help lower your future tax burden. Want to know what your liability could look like? Scan the QR code or visit StonebridgeRothQuiz.com to take our Roth conversion quiz today and see if a conversion makes sense for you.
Thank you so much for listening to the Retirement Compass radio show. I'm Mike Bauer, consumer advocate, and I'm joined today by financial advisor from Stonebridge Wealth Systems, Zach Vancas. And Zach, let's talk about some rich people that make some bad decisions or end up in a bad spot. I'm a big sports fan. I want to look at some elite athletes who've earned millions of dollars, because we've all heard the stories. Every time there's a big contract signed, you see that giant number with however many millions or hundreds of millions of dollars. But you also often hear stories about people who were in that situation, who ended up ultimately facing devastating financial collapses. What can the everyday retiree learn from, for something like that maybe isn't relatable in terms of, okay, I'm never going to make $100 million playing a game on a field or on a court or on ice or something like that. But what can the everyday retiree learn from high profile stories about actually protecting what we've built on our own through years of hard work?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an unfortunate reality that I don't remember the exact statistic, but people who come into massive windfalls of money, whether it's inheritance, lottery, athletes, movie stars, finding it on the side of the road, what have you, almost all of them, they lose it all. And like with lottery winners specifically, they end up worse off than had they never won it. And most people hear that and think, that's not possible. Like if I won $10 million, I'd be the one smart guy. I'd be the one that would end up growing it. And I don't know what those guys are doing. I wouldn't ever do that, says all of the people that also lost all of the money. I would say the thing that people can relate, you asked, what can people actually relate to? Because I'm not going to make $100 million playing football. I mean, I got a pretty good arm. I can throw, but I probably won't. And it's the reason why these people run into the issue just as much as the everyday American does is it's lifestyle creep. Like it's the number one issue that I see as people progress through their working career. It's lifestyle creep. I saw a statistic that it was a majority of Americans making over $200,000 a year live paycheck to paycheck. And to those of you listening who make $50,000 a year and are paycheck to paycheck are thinking, how is that even possible? If I had an extra $150,000 a year, my life would be perfect. And it's lifestyle creep. It's people naturally, if you go to the car dealership and you get pre-qualified and you can spend up to $850 a month, what do you think the average person's car payment's going to be? $850.
Yeah, $850 a month. Yeah. Oh, that's what I can get.
Yeah, they're not going to walk out of there with a $500 a month car. Now, some will, but majority, they don't. And so you were living on this $50,000 salary today, and you're making ends meet. You're living paycheck to paycheck. And then let's say you get that raise to 70. Okay, well, I'm going to get a little nicer car. Mine's getting really old. I got an old Toyota Camry. It's broken down and got problems with it. I'm going to get a new Camry because I got approved for $850 a month. I'm going to get a brand new Camry. And, I'm going to do some work at the house. And now I can afford to go out to eat a little more often. And suddenly $70,000's gone. And you're paycheck to paycheck again. You should have $20,000 lying around, but you don't because you will grow to fill the money. Okay, you get raised to 100, and you see where I'm going. You get to a point of you have $200,000 a year in income, and you've grown the car payments, you've grown the house payments, you've grown the eating out budget, you have put your kids in private school. Whatever you've done, you have found a way to create 200,000 obligations. Even though you were getting by on 50, you'll fill it. Okay, we look at the athletes, just add a couple zeros. It's the exact same. That's exactly what they're doing. The problem that like an athlete, lottery winner, inheritance has is it's not lifestyle creep over the course of years. It's once. You get the $10 million check and you think, man, I got $10 million. I'm going to go buy $1 million house. And the other not right. Like, well, you just blew 10% of it in a day.
And your 10 million isn't really 10 million because 10 million plus taxes equals way less than that.
Well, and people think, money, like $10 million is an unimaginable fortune. Like if you were to imagine, for those of you listening that are in your 60s, add up the salary that you were paid every year your entire life. You've probably had millions of dollars flow through your fingers in 60, 70 years. Like, people think, if I had 10 million, I'd be awesome. I mean, if you spend 70 grand a year for a 30-year retirement, that's over $2 million. Like, and that's not considering inflation. Like 70,000 a year today will not be 70,000 30 years from now. Not even close. And, you get this windfall and it's, well, I'm going to blow half of it or 3/4 of it. And I'm going to save the other $1 million. I'm going to triple my monthly expenses. And I'll be good for the rest of my life. No, you won't. Like, you won't. You're going to grow to fill it. And, unfortunately, one-time windfalls, your $200,000 salary you've grown to hopefully continues. But that one-time payment doesn't. It's done. Yeah. It's over. It's not coming back.
You often hear these stories about, somebody gets drafted in a professional sport and the first thing, and it's a wonderful thing that they do. I wanted to buy my mom a house, or I wanted to buy my dad a house, or I wanted to take care, you take care of the family and okay, that's great, but that's also, that's a significant portion of that insane amount of money that they're making. You're listening to The Retirement Compass with Zach Vancas joining us. And Zach, I want to talk a little bit about not necessarily, somebody who gets drafted, but a professional boxer. Everybody knows Iron Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson, he had a bunch of legal issues and all that, but let's talk about his financial issues, because this is a guy who at one point in time was making $35 million a fight and still ended up filing for bankruptcy. I mean, he bought mansions and cars. He had tigers in the backyard. I remember the movie Hangover. He's got tigers. That's actually real. That's not a movie thing. He's, jewelry and expensive purchases. And of course, for him, a lot of legal fees. But, for somebody making $35 million a fight at one point in time to end up filing for bankruptcy, I think probably blows a lot of people's minds.
Yeah. And it comes down to you'll always find a way to spend the money. We live in a capitalist consumer society. Everyone's motivation is to get money from you. Like, that's what makes the world go round. And I can't remember where I saw it. Somebody was saying, like, if you live a modest life, you can make $60,000, $70,000 a year and have everything. You can own a home, you can buy a car, you can put food on the table. Everything above that, you're not doing more things, but you're spending more money. Like, Mike, you and I, between segments, we're talking about, I have a nice Citizen dive watch here. It's like a couple $100. I can easily go drop $1 million on a Rolex. Does it do more than my watch? Nope. It doesn't, right? My current house that I live in, I could go buy a $5 million house, probably have more rooms and be a bigger lawn to mow, but like, it's still a house, right? Like, what's the difference between a $100,000 car and a $2 million car? The logo. Maybe it's more carbon fiber, but
Zach, I mean, even with that example, you think about it, okay, you go and buy a bigger house and, you got a bigger lawn to mow and you kind of make that joke. But now you got to, but before you've already got a push mower. Now you've got to buy a riding mower, or you got to, now you're paying for somebody to mow your lawn because it's so dang big, In addition to that, there's all these other expenses too that a lot of times people don't think of.
Yeah, my $1 million Rolex, I got to insure that thing. I don't even know what insurance on a $1 million watch would cost. You got to service it. I think servicing a Swiss watch is like thousands of dollars, and you have to mail it to Switzerland. And it just adds up, right? Well, I got to put it somewhere. I got to get a nice watch box to display, right? All these things that you suddenly need to have, because obviously, when you were making $70,000 a year, this was all insanity. But I promise you'll find a way to justify it. Like, most people do. That's why it's important to have some kind of a plan of if that, and you see there are, professional athletes that make it out wildly wealthy. Like, I think Rob Gronkowski's an example, and he was like, yeah, my goal when I made it to the league, I know the average player is only there 2 years. And so my goal is to get enough money in savings that if I just left tomorrow, I could just live off the interest or the advertising revenue I get from doing commercial. That's all I need.
Shots fired at Rob Gronkowski here, but nobody's also confused him with a smart dude ever. Like, that's not...
No.
but he had a smart plan. At least in that element, very smart.
Yeah, and he is like the definition of frat bro. But he famously has basically never touched any of his NFL money. Like, he basically put everything away and saved it all. And now if he needs to withdraw $1 million a year in interest, he probably can, because he had the plan. He saved it. He invested it. He grew it. He knew what was... the money will stop coming. And that's a good example. Whether it's a one-time lottery, it will stop, immediately. If you're a professional athlete, it will come to an end one day. And if you're just a normal person making $70,000 a year, you will retire one day, or hopefully, or you won't be able to work. The money truck will stop coming. The paycheck will stop, and you have to know what you're going to do when that day comes, because it's happening.
And thankfully, that's what you guys in the team at Stonebridge Wealth Systems do. We used Iron Mike Tyson as an example there to kind of get things started. Make sure your portfolio is built on a strong foundation and doesn't get knocked out. See what I did there? Give Zach and the team a call at Stonebridge Wealth Systems, 866-295-5146. You can always go online to stonebridgeiwm.com and schedule a complimentary consultation. Meet with and obviously there's a lot of convenience now in terms of going online, and you can do virtual meetings or do something on the phone. But if you're able to make it out to one of the locations as well for Stonebridge, set up an in-person meeting with somebody at the team, with Zach or somebody at Stonebridge Wealth Systems. Conveniently located offices in Grand Island, in Kearney, Omaha, and Lincoln if you want to meet in person for a complimentary visit. And those are generally an hour and a half. Zach said that they always block out an hour and a half to give you extra time if you've got more questions you need to ask. But usually it's a really low pressure, casual conversation, and that really is what it is. It's a conversation about you, where you are right now, and ultimately where you want to go, where you want to be through retirement. Give them a call, 866-295-5146. That's 866-295-5146. or you can explore the process and schedule a complimentary visit at stonebridgeiwm.com.
A captain can navigate the open ocean. Calm days, stormy nights, they've seen it all. But when the ship reaches the harbor, everything changes. There's narrow passages, shifting tides, and hidden rocks. That's when the harbor master steps aboard, a specialist who knows how to bring you in safely. I'm Tim Kulhanek with Stonebridge Wealth Systems, and we're harbor masters for your retirement, guiding families through life's most important passage. Call the number below to schedule your complimentary retirement strategy session.
Welcome back to the Retirement Compass radio show. I'm joined by Zach Vancas, a financial advisor at Stonebridge Financial. Zach, for decades, the gold standard of retirement planning was this 4% rule. And we've heard that. We've talked about it on this show. You've probably talked about it with almost everybody that you have in your office. But that was then, and this is now. So that was a rule that was built years and years ago in the mid-90s for a world that really no longer exists. So can we go back into the Wayback Machine a little bit and go back? Where did the 4% rule come from? We've been hearing about it now for 30 plus years. And to, before we break it down, why did it work so well for so long?
So the 4% rule, the basis of it, for those that don't know, is simply once you get to retirement, you invest it, your portfolio, you had a nest egg of $1 million and you invest it in a 50-50 or 60-40, between stocks and bonds split, and you take 4% or $40,000 a year out, and you can take it out every year for the rest of your life and you'll never run out of money. Seems easy. Like, if I know I can live on 40,000 plus Social Security, just get my way to $1 million and I'm done. That's retirement planning. That's all I need to know.
That's easy. Cool. I'm
it's
done.
Easy enough. ChatGPT could have told you to do that. Not specific advice. So that's what the 4% rule states. Now, the guy that founded the 4% rule, he later revised it and he increased it to, it could be a higher amount, and then, it could be a lower amount, and it keeps changing. And the reason why is the landscape is changing. A, people are living longer. The number one reason why Social Security is so stressed right now is A, mismanagement, but B, when Social Security came out in the 30s, you had to be 65 to take it. And life expectancy was 60. So the average person never lived to see it. And now you're on it for 20, 30 years. Your retirement nest egg is the same situation. People are still retiring in their early to mid 60s is the goal. And yet life expectancy is not 60 anymore. It's not 65. It's not 70. It's higher than 70. And the IRS put out a thing, yes, life expectancy in America is what, 74, 76, 78, something like that for, men, and females are a couple of years more because we do more dumb stuff. But yeah, life expectancy is 70 something. So, okay, well, I only have to have my money last for 10 years. The IRS put out a study. If you have a couple, both of which have lived to the age of 65, odds are one of you will make it to 90. Like, your life expectancy is not 70, we'll call it 5. That's averaging everyone that passed away, infant more passing away, children, like that's dragging that average down. If you've made it to 65 with decent long, health, yeah, statistically, one of you is going to make it to 90. And so you've got to get this to last 30 years, 40 years. If you make it to 100, that's becoming more and more and more of a thing now, and could continue to, life expectancies continue to trickle up. So you have a lot longer time horizon to deal with. Tax landscapes change. If all your money's in a 401k, well, guess what? It's all taxable to you. Guess what? It's going to push your Medicare premiums higher. Guess what? More of your Social Security is taxable. Additionally, I'd say the number one change is just what the bond market's been doing in recent times. For the longest time, it was easy. If stocks went up, bonds went down. And if stocks went down, bonds went up. Half your portfolio was always doing okay. So in those bad years, because stock market's not flat, it's up and down. Yes, it averages up, but there's down years. In those down years, well, half your portfolio, if it's half bonds, is still making money. Just take your $40,000 a year out of the bonds. You'll be good. It all comes out in the wash. Only, 2022, we saw a perfect example of it. Stocks were down 18%, bonds were down 15%.
That's not supposed to happen based on the textbooks.
Yeah, like your portfolio just dropped, we'll call it easy math, 20%, and you're still taking 40,000 out of now an $800,000 portfolio. That's different math. So it opens you up to what's called sequence of returns risk, where if you have significant market declines in the first 5 years of retirement, odds are you may not be able to recover from it if you're just relying solely on, flat withdrawal rate. And why you need to start building in, okay, well, what's the plan going to be if the market goes down? Do I have a backup? Do I have alternatives? Are there other fixed income instruments? That's where sitting down with somebody like a Stonebridge to help put together a more detailed plan comes in. Because there's I'm not sitting here saying it's all doom and gloom. There's alternatives to the 4% rule is the key outcome of this.
So Zach, when you mentioned significant market declines within those first 5 years of retirement, how do you help people plan? I mean, because you don't know when the next COVID is going to come by, and all of a sudden, some unbelievably I feel like this is an email now, unprecedented times we live in, right? That phrase that we heard so much. But I mean, if somebody retired in 2019, they're probably in a much different situation than somebody who's retiring today. How do you, not necessarily, this isn't about timing the market, but how do you build plans that are resilient through whatever the world throws at us?
Yeah, it comes down, the big thing is it's cash flow, it's income planning, and tax planning. It's why previously in the show we had talked about what does the first meeting look like, and I kind of drilled on expenses quite a bit. It's figuring out what are your expenses in retirement going to be reasonably, and add in a buffer. If you want to go on vacation a year, okay, let's plan for that. Like, have a goal. I'm just saying beans and rice, but have a goal. Okay, let's say I'm going to spend $5,000 a month. Okay. Or 8,000, we'll say $8,000 a month is my retirement goal. And we're going to look and say, okay, well, he's getting, $2,000 from Social Security and she's getting $2,000 or $3,000 from Social Security. Okay. Combined, there's $5,000. She was a teacher. Maybe she gets $1,000 a month from, NPERS pension, right? Okay. Now we're at $6,000 a month. I got to find $2,000 a month. How do I do that? Well, that's where we say, okay, of the $1 million nest egg in this example, let's carve off a portion of that and put it into some fixed income instrument, whether that's an income annuity, whether that's something like structured note, something that can get us that $2,000 a month, not reliant on market volatility. Okay, we take, however much money, $200,000 out that goes into an income annuity, for example. Not specific advice, I'm just throwing out numbers here, but take $200,000 out, throw in an income annuity that gives us $2,000 a month. Boom, there's my $8,000. I don't care what the stock market does now. It can drop 60% tomorrow.
Yeah.
And guess what? Your mortgage is paid, lights are on, food's on the table, and if we budgeted a vacation, you're still going on vacation. We're good. It doesn't matter. The rest of the $800,000 that's invested, that's icing. Like, that's just cherry on top. If the market drops, my livelihood is not based on Wall Street. I have built an income plan that I can rely on my assets, my plan, and not hopefully Coca-Cola's up tomorrow. Otherwise, I don't get to eat, right? Like, that's not a position we want to be in.
Yeah. And, your situation is different than everybody else's situation. My situation, you're throwing out these numbers. I'm like, oh, those are good numbers. My situation's different from yours, Zach, different from anybody listening. And that's why a number out there, the 4% rule, that is not a one size. I mean, that is a one size fits all problem for individuals, because 4% doesn't work for everybody. And that's why it's important to sit down and have a conversation with somebody like the team at Stonebridge Wealth Systems. You can set up a complimentary, no obligation, no cost consultation today at 866-295-5146. That's 866-295-5146, or go online to stonebridgeiwm.com. When we're looking at the 4% rule, okay, so maybe it doesn't work for everybody. It doesn't fit. Maybe it's timed out. Is there a rule of thumb that has replaced that now that is more current? Or is it really just about having individual conversations with people and, there isn't a rule of thumb, the 4% rule for everybody?
Yeah, I would say there's not a one-size-fits-all recommendation that I would necessarily like to throw out there. I mean, the 4% rule, it's not horrible. You know, you're not dooming people. Like I've heard some horrible dooming ones, like not to throw anyone under the bus, but we're going to throw someone under. Dave Ramsey. Don't get me wrong, love me some Dave Ramsey. He's got millions of people out of debt. He has a lot of good advice, but he has the 8% rule. And his argument is, well, my mutual fund averages 12% a year. Inflation's 4%. You can safely withdraw 8%. No, you can't. Like, no, don't do that. Do not listen to that advice. For those of you listening, don't do that because it completely throws sequence of returns risk out the window. Like, yeah, if your mutual fund did exactly 12% a year, every single year, never more, never less, sure, that would work. But I haven't found anything that does that. And guess what? You won't either because there isn't. So you can't listen to like a lot of that broad, oh, just trust this, or oh, just do that, or, you know, well, I did this and it worked great for me, so you do it. That's not how it works. Like, it's such an individualized plan. And I know that's probably not what people want to hear. You know, it's not a great clickbaity title on YouTube. You know, the number one secret to your retirement is X. You know, it's unfortunately just not the case. Like I would definitely struggle to, on the radio, throw out I think you'll be fine if you just do this.
I mean, I was looking for a viral soundbite there. I was hoping that,
I know.
So you've got the 4% rule. I want like the Zach Vancas rule, but I mean, I think even better is the fact.
Soundbite is me violently saying, do not do the Dave Ramsey 8% rule. That's your viral soundbite. Don't do that.
Well, unfortunately, we don't have time to explore what the next viral soundbite might be. We are running up against the end of today's Retirement Compass radio show. Zach and the team at Stonebridge Wealth Systems, as you've learned today, they believe a successful retirement isn't achieved by accident or luck. It requires a common sense approach, coordinating a whole bunch of different things. I mean, from your expenses to how much you have, taxes are a huge part of the equation, healthcare, legacy planning. And I'm sure for anybody listening, when you hear a lot of these hypotheticals that Zach throws out there, you're thinking, okay, I can put myself in those shoes. And you want to know, okay, what does the 4% rule, or what does this mean for me? And if you want to have that conversation about what it means for you, call Stonebridge Wealth Systems right now at 866-295-5146. If you're ready to remove friction from your financial life, stop relying on outdated assumptions like that 4% rule, and build a stress-tested, customized plan for the future, give Stonebridge Wealth a call, 866-295-5146. You can also explore. They have dynamic planning tools, resources, and educational materials. And you can set up a complimentary visit at their website at stonebridgeiwm.com. For Zach Vancas and everybody at Stonebridge Wealth Systems, thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time on the Retirement Compass radio show.